We are back. We are better than ever. It is the return of the Muscle, Mind, and Money podcast. We've been on a little holiday almost.
OMG. I feel like it's been a month since we recorded a podcast. So we are sorry that it's been so long. But I think I had like 3 or 4 people this week that was like, yo, I'm waiting for the next episode. So thank you for holding us accountable. We are here and we are excited to have a chat today.
That's a really good feeling. That's nice to know that a couple gas bags that blow gas all the time on this, people actually listen.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So if people knocked on the door and they're like, look, when's your next podcast coming? And we're like, it's only been a couple weeks. We've been busy. And then when we look back to the last episode we posted was like early March.
No, March.
May? June?
May. Oh my God.
Sorry.
We don't even know what month it is.
COVID-19 and quarantine and who even knows what day it is, seasonality, whatever. But we're back. Like I said, we're better than ever. And as we were talking about doing our podcast today, catching up, hey, what's a good subject we should talk about? Something that came up on the mind because in the last few weeks, since our last podcast that we announced that we've launched Two Brothers Toffee, it's been on fire. It's been incredible. But when you have everything going, you got to know what to say yes to. You got to know what to say no to.
Yeah.
So I thought it was an appropriate subject for us to kind of share some of those challenges and opportunities and learnings that we've had from saying yes to many things, but then know how to say no to help us get to really where we want to be.
So, how many of you are either caught in a situation right now or have been in a situation that you find yourself committing and overcommitting to all of these things and saying yes to everything and not really knowing when to say no, either to other people or to your boss or to yourself?
Yeah, don't you think that's been most recent though, that it happens for a lot of people, especially during like the COVID at home?
Oh, yeah.
Responsibilities change. Let's say you're a parent, now you're trying to parent at home.
Yes.
Or you're trying to work remotely, or maybe you're furloughed right now, and now it's just, it seems like with nothing having process and stabilization, we get wrapped up with we'll do everything.
Yeah, I think in this changing time with this really unique environment that we've been placed in, this is a really relevant topic. So, Dominic wants to walk us through some learnings from a book. And then we'd like to give you 3 kind of examples in our life where we've had a lot of success in understanding when to say yes, understanding when and how to say no, and it's allowed us to progress and move forward a lot quicker.
Yeah, naturally, we're yes people. Mm-hmm. Most people are. They want to please others. They want to make sure that they're well liked. But as we reflected back, yes starts to elevate everything you do. It'll get you opportunities, giving extra credit, extra effort, contributing more and more and more. But also comes to a point to where it actually starts to become your Achilles heel. It slows you down. But Nastasia, you reflected and said, look, you've been in a situation where you've said yes to everything, especially when you're trying to get promoted or to progress yourself. Mm-hmm. And then you're overcommitted and you're worse than what you were before.
Yeah. So where Dominic was quickly explaining, I do think it is really important as you're progressing. Let's kind of take this on a career standpoint now. As you're progressing your career, it's important that you say yes to things that other people are choosing not to do. And an example of that would be maybe additional work or doing a job without the quote unquote title or name tag, or
good.
Stepping up to take on extra projects or showing initiative. It's really important that you put yourself out there and say yes. But there also comes a time where if you're overcommitting yourself or overcommitting your time, there's only so much energy output you have that you run the risk of potentially your work and what you're producing could be mediocre. And in an inability to prioritize and understand the important things come first, it's really easy to get caught up in that. Another example of this yes to everything versus knowing when to say no is when I was in a leadership role and a new leader as a multi-unit manager. I really had a passion and a drive to serve others and to make sure everyone was successful. Like, I cared so much about everyone's success that I thought the way to get everybody successful was saying yes to everything. So if somebody needed help, like it wasn't even me thinking through it. It would just be yes, because I'm a servant leader and I want to give you everything and I want you to be successful. Eventually, what happened was I was spread so thin, I wasn't able to serve well. And in my later, wiser years, I learned that saying yes to everything can really be a crutch for others. And so while you're trying to take on all the work and take on the load, either because you know you can do it best or you want other people to succeed, so you just want to help, you're actually enabling them not to learn, and you're enabling them not to be able to critically think and grow on their own. And so if you remove yourself from the picture, you have somebody that literally doesn't know how to function without you. This is also a really important lesson in parenthood. So if your children are asking you for help with everything and you never teach them how to do things on their own because you don't know how to say no, then you're going to end up with a child that's like not sufficient on their own. And so these are the lessons on a yes and a no, on how, either in your work life or as you're developing people, to understand that there comes a limit to what you can do. And at the same time, if you don't make people figure shit out on their own, then they're never going to be sufficient without you. So there's appropriate times where you say, no, you can go ahead and do that, or you can go figure it out.
Yeah, but you run down. You've said just personally, you've gotten in the trap of saying yes to everything to help people.
Oh, yeah.
Help me with this, help me with that.
Yes.
And you call it like being a super parent.
Yeah.
Where you become something for everyone, and then eventually it backfires because you become the enabler, and then they have no skill set themselves to do what they're asking you to do.
Yeah.
And it kills your time.
Yeah.
Kills your productivity. Mm-hmm. And don't you feel it kills your future abilities to actually grow and work on your business?
Yeah, if you don't learn how and when how to say no and when the appropriate times are to say no through your prioritization and understanding your time is value. So where do you put your time where you get the most value? If you don't learn that, then you won't ever be able to grow individually or into larger jobs, because you're gonna have to learn how to delegate. And part of saying no means delegating that responsibility. I remember there was a time when I was a multi-unit manager and a trainer was really bad on the computer. So here's a very valid example of a real life of where I'm explaining to you it's appropriate to say no. And she was a really heavy hitter and wrote a ton of business and hated the computer. So every time she would gain a new client, she would ask me to do her paperwork on the computer. And I would always say yes, because I want to help. And I'm proud that she got a new client. And I mean, I was like a full-time secretary to this one trainer. When in the scope of my work, my time and my value, that's nothing I should have been doing. But I enabled her. And the more I enabled her, she never learned to do those things on her own. And eventually the next leader came in and was like, I'm not writing your agreements up for you. And how long did it take for her to figure out how to do it?
Yeah.
A minute. And so learning how to say no, even if it's uncomfortable,
100%.
is really important.
When you say yes all the time, especially in the scenario you're talking about, you become the crisis leader. You're just managing crises.
Yeah.
You're constantly the firefighter. You're putting out every little thing, and you get nothing done.
Nothing done that's
Nothing
important.
done at all.
And then I bitch that I'm working like 12 or 14 hours a day.
You extend your day, your
Yeah.
energy, and everyone else gets to get off early because
Totally.
you're the individual that's picked up the slack
Yeah.
to do so.
It's just not good.
If just a little bit of reflection, when did you finally say enough is enough? I'm moving forward with no will get me further than yes, because I'm going to stop trying to please people and I'm going to start to perform.
It's going to lead us into your point, but the higher up I got and the larger my scope of responsibility, it literally physically became impossible. Like there wasn't enough hours and there wasn't enough time in the day, but it was so confusing because it was what got me to where I was, and it worked at some point. But as the scope and the job grew larger, then that no longer worked. And we're experiencing that now also in our business. Like there's so much stuff to do that you're going to have to decide on things that you do and say yes to and things that you don't do.
Right.
And you either say no or you delegate, whether it's specific to the project or just in your life in general, right? Like we don't have enough time to do all the stuff we want to do. So you have to pick a priority. So lesson number 2 on
Yeah.
saying no.
Yeah. Well, I'll finish your lesson number 1 with that reminds me of the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And crisis management, but effective time management and where to put what's important, what's urgent, what's not important, what's not urgent, and so far in quadrants. If you haven't read it, pick it up, read it, and I think it'll help a lot. But no matter what, being that kind of leader with the heart and soul you talked about does propel you. It does get you forward, but it burns you out faster than it can ever grow you.
Yeah, it's just not sustainable. So learning the technique and learning the, what is it called? Like the skill. Learning, I kind of look at it in this scenario that we're giving you. It's a skill set to learn how to say no.
Yeah, and when to say no at the appropriate time.
Yeah.
My example of the yes and no factor was, I'll give credit to a lady named Michelle Ernest. She was a colleague of ours that worked with us, and she recommended a book. And it was What Got You Here Will Not Get You There, and it was by Marshall Goldsmith. Great book. I picked it up, but I gravitated more towards the Blinkist, 15-minute read of it. And there was a chapter out of there that was really touched base with me because, just take the title again. What got you here will not get you there. Meaning being a yes person, signing up for the extra work, doing the extracurricular activities, doing many of the things that got you to your success to a certain point does not mean you're going to continue that success once you reach that new level. Right. Think of it from the analogy of an NBA basketball player. You go from college to the pros.
Right.
Just because you were successful in college, you may have been a man amongst boys or a woman amongst little girls playing. And once you get to the big leagues, what you did in college doesn't mean that's what transfers over into the pros. Same is true for anything when you start to level up. And the higher you go with skill sets, opportunity, and responsibilities, you have to be more selective on what you say yes to spend your energy on, or no, and forget everything you learned in the past. You have to rewrite your new chapters of your new success.
Yep.
So I took away a chapter in there. It was called Learn to Listen to Others Without Trying to Improve on Their Ideas. And take this back to when you progress in any role, responsibility. And I quickly was super fast-brained. You'd be talking to me about a subject, an idea, and I'd want to improve on it. I'd want to move on it. And I wouldn't even listen all the way through to like the final. I would already make up my mind 10 seconds into the conversation. And what it did is it made me really fast, and it made me really effective through many roles and responsibilities. But when I got up to a leadership role of like a vice president and I had everything at my responsibility, it killed me. It slowed me down faster than it ever speeded me up because my responsibility scope changes. When you're responsible for yourself, you can be really, really quick. When you're responsible for others, you may not be as fast, but you'll go a lot further. And what got me to where I wanted to be from a position and opportunity was not the same skills that was going to progress me moving forward with new responsibilities. So I read the book and I really took away from that chapter around listening, learn to listen to others without trying to improve on their ideas, because what it made me do is start to slow down, think, listen to various sides of expertise, principles, to then really make a good decision in the holistic of all to progress me forward. Mm-hmm. So the same skills I had cultivated in lower ranking roles were not going to be the same skills that were going to take me moving forward. Mm-hmm. And so I had to learn the yes and no factor was you always fall back on your yeses because it's what got you promoted. Mm-hmm. Or I'm anything of a skill set. Well, it's what I've been doing my whole life. Why won't it work now? It reminds me of the time that you and I started dating and your parents with their business. And they wouldn't get off Craigslist. Mm-hmm. You were like, no, Mom and Dad, it's this thing called Facebook. It's this thing called search engine optimization. There's other ways to market.
Yeah.
And what did they say? No, we've always done Craigslist. Yeah. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
They said no to the progressions versus they should have said yes to actually like changing, but they were saying yes to the old and not the future. So it to me it was really eye opening when I read this. But then as I took it through, I realized the yeses will get you an opportunity to be on the team. The no's of putting your energy and your time, what is most valuable to your productivity of you succeeding in that new role, will be the only way for you to grow into a new position or new opportunities, however you want to put it into your life and kind of put it through the filter. So I started to learn to say no. And really, I was saying no to myself. I was saying no to my previous successes and no to my previous habits that I didn't realize would actually hold me back in a new position. That's why many people get promoted into certain levels, especially when they even get to C levels, like, C level employees, and they struggle
Yeah.
because they're still acting and thinking like they were at a lower level. And I did the same. I had to learn through that too. So I credit Michelle on, her recommendation. Maybe the first time she met me, she's like, "Oh, I got to get this guy this book."
Yeah. She saw it.
He won't even listen
She's
to
like,
me
"Oh
all the way
my
through.
gosh."
But I do give her some credit on there. But that was a big takeaway. So if I recap 1 and 2, yours is, look, your yeses will hold you back if you're like the super parent, like trying to, and you're overcommitting your time and your energy because it burns you out and it enables everyone else. Mine is, what got you promoted will not keep you and grow you into. So being selective and having your intelligence of your past experiences to reflect on means your new training moving forward needs to be that much smarter and sharper to propel you. Number
that's
3 is really something we're all dealing with it right now.
Oh, yeah. So, number 3 is how and where you spend your time, pleasure versus productivity. And I'm certainly not one to say, don't spend any time on fun stuff. Yes, of course. But are your yeses and your nos aligned with how you're choosing to spend your time? Are they aligned with the goals and the productivity outcome of your desire? So if we go to a recent situation that we've all been in, which is COVID, which a lot of us have had more time on our hands, which has been amazing because I think a lot of us needed that time to have those pleasurable experiences of cooking or spending time with our children or whatever it is for you.
Netflix, streaming,
Yeah.
social media, like all that's gone up and up and up.
Playing the video games with your friend. Oh, is that what streaming means?
No. Streaming is when you download video. Like
Oh,
Netflix
okay.
would be streaming.
Okay, what's
The
like
other is
video
online
game?
gaming.
Online
There you
gaming.
go, techie.
Okay. So that's been wonderful. But we're also going to be at a crossroads now to where reality is setting in that time is coming to an end or has come to an end. And likely we're going to have to go work harder and smarter than we've ever worked. So really sitting down to subjectively look at where are we saying yes to the things that bring us pleasure and social and fun things that we need, but also our ability to say no when it's getting out of control and in the way of our productivity.
Yeah, those are addicting. Like
Yeah.
Call of Duty online, or constantly now checking your social streams, your emotional media 24/7. And it's because you've been at home, you've been quarantined, or you've been at a place to where you're just not in the same outdoor activities. You're not traveling as much. You're replacing the time you did dedicate to other things into guilty pleasures that really addict you.
Yep.
And now we flip the switch and we go back to work and we're supposed to be back to productivity 24/7. But yet I have a yearning to go
Yeah.
on time wasters.
And so for me, I think that there's been a big learning about, self-care and wellness doesn't only mean eating well and working out, although it does mean that for me, but there's more to it as well. So my pleasure activities of doing my art is a huge stress relief and allows me to have creativity. You guys should see
This
Dominic's
art,
face
man.
right now. I love my art or cooking. And these things are really important to me. So those are not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm saying is unproductive. Although it was a little bit foreign to me. I would say that I would put that in the priority list of my pleasure things that I do want to choose. But do I need to be on Instagram for 5 hours a day? Like, just searching mindlessly, flipping from Facebook to Instagram and Instagram to Facebook, like for literally an hour straight. Like, no, I would say that that's my time sucker and that's my addiction. So by all means, we're not saying do nothing for yourself, because again, in this yes and no, that takes maturity and it takes wisdom to understand the things that actually are pleasurable, that fill your cup, that make you more productive, versus the things that you might be wasting time and they're not really getting you anywhere to help you with your end goals.
Yeah.
With your family, your career, your finances.
Would it be fair to say, and not all is true, but it's a lack of focus at that time?
Yeah, and part of that lack of focus is either maybe laziness, or you're trying to just disconnect to be mindless for a little bit.
No sense of urgency.
Yeah.
So you're idle.
Yeah.
And you're going to fill your thoughts and your actions with dead space. Mm-hmm. And I say we're guilty of it too. Just the other day, I was on Netflix and I'm like, man, I've watched every show. This is at 2:00 in the afternoon. There's work to do.
Yeah. Totally.
We may have the luxury and affordability to do our own business, so we don't have a boss of a boss to report to, but the boss is the consumer that's waiting for our products to be sold. And I was sitting idle. Mm-hmm. So I had to have that aha moment, shut it off, and get to work. Go do something that day. Mm-hmm. But really, I had to reflect, and that was a lack of priority and a lack of focus. I wasn't planned and I wasn't organized. Or if you plan your whole day around your guilty pleasures, like, oh, I can just be off at this time so I can play Call of Duty, or I can do something that's just going to not be productive, it doesn't become the reward for your hard work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's almost like it's an expectation of a schedule.
It becomes, I need that first before I ever go to work.
Yeah.
And it becomes reverse. Mm-hmm. And so what we're sharing with you is, because the last few weeks we've been busy. Absolutely. This is a big priority of ours, being on the podcast, and it gives us an outlet to help others and help ourselves. Mm-hmm. But even through certain times, you're going to have to make the right decisions of what's going to be good today that benefits you not only tomorrow, but in the future. And also to everything else you've talked about, is make sure you carve out that time to where it's not all work and no play.
Right.
You got to have a blend. Let's recap. So part one again, like when
is be cautious of saying yes to everything and don't overcommit your time. And just remember, by overly saying yes, you don't want to become the enabler of others that actually hurts them and doesn't help them.
You help them more by saying no.
Yeah.
I think it hurts us by saying no because we think we're taking something away.
Just remember what got you here may not be necessarily what gets you there.
Yeah.
So you always need to be reassessing for your new situation and your new desired outcome, and just understand that sometimes if the yeses got you where you want it to be, you might need to be incorporating some no's to get you where you want to go next.
Let me add to that. Erase this from your vocabulary. We've always done it that way. Mm-hmm. Erase that shit from your vocabulary, and you'll realize how much your yes of what we've done before is automatically your no that should take you forward.
Mm-hmm. And then last, pleasure versus productivity. Make very wise, calculated decisions on how you are spending your time in your personal life in order to fill your cup and give you what you need emotionally, and at the same time allow you to reach your productivity goals.
Yeah, like artwork, like gallons of paint spilled all over the house and like tiles everywhere. And
you guys, if you haven't seen my artwork, just go to my Instagram. I am making coasters with alcohol ink, and it's very beautiful art.
Mm-hmm. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, ladies and gentlemen. That is it. We are off. We got to get back to work on other projects too, but we'll be consistent with the podcast. So you stay tuned. You stay in. Give us a 5-star review. Like us. Share us.
Yeah, help us out, man.
We got artwork to sell. We got it.
All right. See you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.